You're sabotaging my food! The restaurant owner's voice explodes across the parking lot, loud enough for everyone waiting for their orders to hear. I know what you're doing. You're tampering with deliveries to destroy my business. 26-year-old Terrell stands next to his beat-up Honda Civic, the delivery bag still in his hands, staring at the restaurant owner who's now screaming in his face. Around them, other delivery drivers watch. Customers waiting for pickup stare. Someone pulls out a phone to record. Sir, I'm just picking up orders. Terrell keeps his voice calm despite his racing heart. I don't touch the food. It's sealed when you give it to me. Liar! Vincent Romano, owner of Romano's Italian Kitchen, is red-faced with rage. 15 people got sick this week after eating my food. The only common factor is you delivered it. You're doing something to the food in your car. Terrell looks at the sealed bag in his hands. The restaurant's logo stamped across the tape. Impossible to open without obvious tampering. Mr. Romano, the food is sealed. I'm calling the police. Vincent pulls out his phone. I'm having you arrested for food tampering, for assault, for trying to destroy a business I spent 20 years building. You people always... He stops himself, but everyone heard what he was about to say. The implicit racism hanging in the air like smoke. You people always what? Terrell asks quietly. Vincent's face gets redder. Always trying to tear down what others have built. I'm reporting you to the delivery app and pressing criminal charges. Give me that bag. But what Vincent Romano doesn't know about the delivery driver he's about to have arrested is that Terrell holds a PhD in food chemistry. The minimum wage worker he's blaming has spent 6 years studying how chemical compounds in food interact. And the person he's accusing of sabotage is about to prove that the poisoning isn't happening in the delivery car. It's happening in Vincent's own kitchen, in a recipe Vincent created himself. The food scientist who delivers meals to pay his rent is about to expose that Romano's Italian Kitchen has been accidentally poisoning customers for months. And the proof will destroy everything Vincent has built, but save the lives of everyone who might have eaten there tomorrow. Romano's Italian Kitchen sits in a busy commercial district, surrounded by office buildings and apartments. It's the kind of neighborhood restaurant that does steady business. Lunch crowds from nearby offices, dinner orders from families too tired to cook, weekend brunch with mimosas. Vincent Romano opened the place 18 years ago with money borrowed from his father-in-law. Started small, just pasta, pizza, basic Italian-American comfort food. Built it slowly into a successful business. Not fancy, not Michelin-starred, but profitable, reliable. The kind of place where regulars knew the menu by heart, and Vincent knew their usual orders. The restaurant itself is nothing special. 40 seats inside, red and white checkered tablecloths, photos of Italy on the walls, Dean Martin playing on the speakers. Kitchen visible through a window so diners can watch their food being prepared. That authentic touch that makes people trust the quality. Vincent is proud of his restaurant. Talks about it constantly. I built this from nothing, he tells anyone who'll listen. Worked 80-hour weeks. Perfected every recipe. Created something my kids will inherit. He's not a trained chef. Learned cooking from his grandmother. Picked up techniques over the years. Experimented until he found flavors people liked. His formal education stopped at high school, but he's convinced that his lack of culinary school credentials makes him more authentic, not less. I cook with heart, not with some fancy degree. 3 months ago, Vincent decided to modernize, updated the menu, added elevated dishes with fancy ingredients. Molecular gastronomy touches he'd seen on cooking shows, foams, gels, unexpected flavor combinations. His signature new dish, truffle carbonara with activated charcoal pasta and Parmesan foam. Black pasta from the charcoal, creamy sauce, delicate foam on top, shaved truffle to finish. It looked impressive, photographed beautifully for Instagram. Became the restaurant's most ordered item within weeks. Vincent was thrilled. Finally, his restaurant was getting attention. Food bloggers posting photos. Yelp reviews calling it surprisingly innovative. Online orders through delivery apps tripling. Then people started getting sick. At first, just 1 or 2 complaints. Stomach issues, nausea. Chalked it up to coincidence. People get upset stomachs all the time doesn't mean the food caused it. But the complaints increased. 5 customers in 1 week, 10 the next week. Always the same symptoms. Severe stomach cramping, throat irritation, difficulty swallowing, nausea that lasted for hours. Vincent investigated his kitchen. Everything was clean. Food storage temperatures perfect. No cross-contamination. Health inspector came, found 0 violations. Kitchen was actually cleaner than most restaurants. So Vincent looked for another explanation, and he found one that satisfied him. The delivery drivers must be tampering with the food. Made perfect sense in his mind. Food left the kitchen perfect. Customers got sick after delivery. Obviously, something happened during transport. Either the drivers weren't keeping food at proper temperature, or they were actively sabotaging orders. And one driver kept appearing in the pattern. Terrell Washington. Vincent started tracking. 15 people reported getting sick this week. Terrell had delivered to 12 of them. That couldn't be coincidence. Vincent didn't know, didn't bother to check, that Terrell delivered 80% of all orders from Romano's because he lived nearby, and the delivery app's algorithm assigned him most requests from that restaurant. The correlation wasn't causation, it was just math. But Vincent had found his scapegoat, and tonight he was going to do something about it. Terrell had been doing food delivery for 11 months. Started right after finishing his PhD when he couldn't find a job in his field and his savings ran out. The gig economy's promise, be your own boss, flexible hours, good money. The reality was more complicated. He worked 60 to 70 hours a week delivering food, made about $2,800 a month after expenses, gas, car maintenance, insurance, lived in a studio apartment that cost $100. Student loan payments took another $800. That left $900 for everything else: food, utilities, phone, clothes, emergencies. It was a hard living, harder than he'd ever imagined when he was in graduate school studying food chemistry and dreaming about a career in research. Terrell had grown up in Atlanta, in a neighborhood where nobody's parents had college degrees. His mother cleaned houses. His father worked at a warehouse until he died of a heart attack when Terrell was 14. They'd pushed Terrell toward education with fierce determination. School is how you get out, his mother had told him constantly. Get that degree. Be the first in our family. He'd been a brilliant student. Full scholarship to Georgia Tech for undergrad. Graduated with honors in chemistry. Got accepted to a prestigious PhD program at Purdue with full funding. Specialized in food chemistry, how different compounds interact, how cooking changes molecular structures, how to make food safer and more nutritious. His dissertation was on chemical interactions in modern cooking techniques, specifically how molecular gastronomy ingredients, things like activated charcoal, liquid nitrogen, unusual gelling agents, could create unexpected and sometimes dangerous chemical reactions when combined incorrectly. It was groundbreaking research. His advisor called it revolutionary work that could change food safety regulations. He'd published 3 papers in peer-reviewed journals, presented at conferences, was on track for a brilliant career. Then came the job market. Terrell applied to 73 positions: food science research labs, university faculty positions, corporate R&D departments, quality control positions at food manufacturers. He got 5 interviews, 0 job offers. The feedback was always vague. Not quite the right fit. We went with someone with more industry experience. Your research is too specialized. Never anything he could point to as discrimination, but the pattern was clear. Meanwhile, his white classmates, some with weaker research records, fewer publications, were getting multiple offers. One guy who'd barely finished his dissertation was hired at a major food company for $95,000 a year. Terrell's advisor tried to help, wrote glowing recommendations, made phone calls to colleagues, but nothing worked. After 6 months of rejections, Terrell's savings were gone. Student. Loan payments were coming due. Rent was overdue. He needed income immediately, so he'd signed up for food delivery apps. Downloaded 3 different apps to maximize orders. Started driving around town delivering meals to people who probably made less than he was qualified to earn, but who had stable jobs and could afford $40 takeout dinners. It was humbling, humiliating even. He had a PhD. He'd spent 6 years becoming an expert in food chemistry, and now he was delivering food prepared by cooks who'd never studied molecular science, to customers who sometimes didn't even bother to say thank you. But it paid the bills. Barely. Terrell tried to keep applying for real jobs while doing deliveries, but it was hard to find time between driving, hard to stay hopeful after the 100th rejection, hard to explain the employment gap on his resume. I have a PhD, but I'm delivering food because nobody will hire me. Didn't inspire confidence in potential employers. So he kept delivering, and he tried not to think too hard about how far his life was from what he'd imagined when he was defending his dissertation. The irony wasn't lost on him. He'd spent 6 years studying food chemistry. Now he spent his days transporting food while knowing more about its molecular composition than the people who'd cooked it. Sometimes, picking up orders, he'd notice things, dangerous things. Restaurants using ingredient combinations that could cause problems, cross-contamination issues, temperature control failures. He'd tried mentioning it a few times. Hey, I noticed you're using activated charcoal and acidic tomato sauce in the same dish. That can create some absorption issues that might cause stomach problems. The responses ranged from confused to hostile. Who asked you? Just deliver the food. You're a driver, not a health inspector. So he'd stopped mentioning things. Picked up the sealed bags, delivered them, collected his $4 delivery fee plus hopefully a decent tip, moved on to the next order. But he noticed. He always noticed. Which is why, 3 weeks ago, he'd started suspecting something was wrong at Romano's Italian kitchen. The orders he picked up started including that new dish, the truffle carbonara with activated charcoal pasta. And Terrell's food chemistry background immediately recognized a potential problem. Activated charcoal was trendy in molecular gastronomy, made pasta look dramatic and black. But activated charcoal was also incredibly absorbent. It bonded to other molecules and prevented them from being absorbed by the digestive system. That's why it was used in hospitals to treat poisoning. It absorbed toxins before the body could. But it didn't just absorb toxins. It absorbed everything, including nutrients, medications, and, most relevant to carbonara, it could bond with certain compounds in the cream sauce and create substances that irritated the digestive tract. Specifically, when activated charcoal was combined with high-fat dairy, like the cream in carbonara, and then exposed to the acidic environment of the stomach, it could create a reaction that caused severe gastric distress. Terrell had literally written a chapter of his dissertation on this exact interaction. He'd wanted to say something, but his previous attempts to offer food safety advice had gone badly. And he was just a delivery driver. Who would listen? So he'd kept quiet, delivered the orders, hoped he was wrong. Then customers started getting sick, and Vincent started blaming the delivery drivers. Tonight, Terrell had picked up 6 orders from Romano's. 4 of them included the truffle carbonara. He'd loaded them into his insulated delivery bag, checked that everything was sealed properly, and was heading to his car when Vincent had come running out of the restaurant screaming accusations. Now he stood in the parking lot being accused of food tampering, while Vincent threatened to call the police. "Mr. Romano," Terrell tried one more time, "I think the problem might be, I don't want to hear your excuses." Vincent grabbed the delivery bag from Terrell's hands. "You're not delivering anything else from my restaurant. I'm reporting you right now." Vincent pulled up the delivery app on his phone, started typing a complaint. "Driver tampering with food, sabotage, recommend immediate termination and criminal investigation." Other delivery drivers were watching. Some looked sympathetic. Others looked worried. If Vincent was blaming one driver, would he blame all of them? Terrell pulled out his own phone, opened his delivery history. "Mr. Romano, can I show you something? I don't want to see—" "Please, just look." Terrell held up his phone showing his delivery statistics. "I've delivered 847 orders in the past 3 months. Romano's represents about 240 of those. If I was tampering with food, wouldn't there be complaints from other restaurants too?" Vincent paused, looking at the screen despite himself. "But there aren't. Terrell continued. The only complaints are from your restaurant, and specifically only from orders containing one dish, your truffle carbonara. How do you know that? Because I pay attention. Terrell stopped himself before saying, because I have a PhD in food chemistry. That would just make Vincent angrier, make him feel threatened. Because I notice patterns, Terrell finished. And the pattern isn't the delivery, it's the dish. Vincent's face got redder. Are you saying something's wrong with my food? With my cooking? I'm saying there might be a chemical interaction you're not aware of. Activated charcoal combined with high-fat cream can create... Oh, so now you're a chef? A food scientist? Vincent's voice dripped with sarcasm. You deliver food. You drive a car. You don't get to tell me how cooking works. Actually, Terrell said quietly, I do know how cooking works. At a molecular level. And I'm trying to help you before more people get sick. Help me? By sabotaging my business? By making people sick and then pretending you know the cause? Vincent turned to the other people in the parking lot. Everyone hear this? This driver is not only tampering with food, he's trying to blame me for it. Several people had their phones out now, recording. This was going to be viral within hours. Black delivery driver accused of food tampering by white restaurant owner. The optics were terrible. Terrell knew he should walk away. Get in his car. Let Vincent report him. Deal with whatever consequences came. He didn't owe this man anything. But people were getting sick, and they'd keep getting sick as long as Vincent kept serving that dish. And Terrell had the knowledge to stop it. He'd spent 6 years learning food chemistry specifically to make food safer, to understand how ingredients interacted, to prevent exactly this kind of problem. He couldn't walk away. Mr. Romano, Terrell said, loud enough for everyone to hear. I have a PhD in food chemistry from Purdue University. My dissertation was specifically about chemical interactions in molecular gastronomy. And I'm telling you, professionally and with complete certainty, that your truffle carbonara is making people sick because of a chemical reaction between the activated charcoal and the dairy in your cream sauce. The parking lot went silent. Vincent stared at him. You have a PhD? Yes. In food chemistry. I've published research on this exact topic, and I'm doing food delivery because I couldn't find a job in my field after graduating. But that doesn't change my expertise. Vincent's expression cycled through emotions. Shock, confusion, then suspicion. If you're such an expert, why are you delivering food? Because having a PhD doesn't guarantee employment. Because the job market is terrible. Because I have student loans and rent and I need to eat, but my financial situation doesn't make my scientific knowledge less valid. Someone in the crowd spoke up. He's telling the truth. I just Googled him. Dr. Terrell Washington, PhD from Purdue, 3 published papers on food chemistry interactions. Vincent grabbed the person's phone, looked at the screen showing Terrell's academic publications. His face went from red to pale. You're actually a food scientist? Yes. And you think my carbonara is causing the illness? I don't think. I know. The activated charcoal you're using in the pasta is creating a chemical reaction with the cream sauce. When customers eat it, the charcoal binds to certain compounds in the sauce and creates substances that irritate the gastric lining. That's what's causing the symptoms. Vincent looked at the sealed delivery bags in his hands, at his restaurant, at the crowd watching. If you're so smart, prove it, he said finally. Prove my food is the problem, not your tampering. Terrell hesitated. I'd need to analyze the dish, run some basic tests. I have equipment in my apartment. No, right now, in front of everyone. Prove it, or I'm calling the cops and having you arrested. This was the golden beat. The moment when the underestimated expert had to demonstrate their knowledge publicly, with everything on the line. Terrell looked at the crowd, at the phone's recording, at Vincent's hostile face. Okay, he said. I'll prove it, but I need a few things. 10 minutes later, an impromptu food chemistry demonstration was happening in Romano's parking lot. Terrell had sent another delivery driver to buy supplies from a nearby pharmacy: litmus paper, antacid tablets, white vinegar, and baking soda. Cost him $23 of his own money, but he needed the materials. Meanwhile, Vincent had brought out a fresh plate of the truffle carbonara. set it on the hood of Terrell's car like a challenge. A crowd had gathered. Delivery drivers, customers, people from neighboring businesses. Someone had even live-streamed it. The video already had 3,000 viewers watching a food delivery driver about to do science in a parking lot. Terrell looked at the plate. The black pasta looked dramatic and expensive. The cream sauce was perfectly emulsified. The Parmesan foam was delicate and professional-looking. It looked like fine dining, but he knew what was happening at the molecular level. Okay, Terrell addressed the crowd like he was teaching a class. Food chemistry lesson. Activated charcoal is highly porous at the molecular level. It has a massive surface area that bonds to other molecules. That's why hospitals use it to treat poisoning. It absorbs toxins before the body can. He picked up a piece of the black pasta with a plastic fork. But activated charcoal doesn't discriminate. It absorbs everything it comes into contact with, including compounds in the food it's mixed with. He separated some of the cream sauce onto a small plate, added a drop of vinegar to simulate stomach acid. The sauce immediately began to separate, showing the fat content. The cream sauce in carbonara is high in milk fats. When activated charcoal is exposed to high-fat dairy, it bonds to certain fatty acid molecules. In a neutral environment, this might be harmless. But when it hits the acidic environment of your stomach, he added more vinegar to simulate gastric acid, it creates a new compound. The mixture on the plate started to change texture, becoming grainy and separated. This compound, Terrell continued, irritates the gastric lining. It causes the exact symptoms customers have been reporting: stomach cramping, throat irritation, nausea. It's not food poisoning from bacteria. It's a chemical reaction causing gastric distress. He used the litmus paper to test the pH of the mixture. It turned a dark color, indicating high acidity. See? The reaction creates an acidic byproduct that irritates sensitive stomach tissue. Vincent was watching, his face pale. But I followed the recipe exactly. This is a legitimate molecular gastronomy technique. Activated charcoal pasta is served at fancy restaurants everywhere. It is, Terrell agreed, but never with high-fat cream sauces. The fancy restaurants that use activated charcoal know about this interaction. They pair it with oil-based sauces or light broths or ingredients that won't create this specific reaction. Combining it with carbonara, heavy cream, eggs, cheese, creates the perfect storm for gastric irritation. He pulled out his phone, showed his dissertation abstract. I literally wrote my PhD thesis on this. Chapter 4 specifically addresses activated charcoal interactions with dairy proteins in high-heat cooking applications. This exact scenario. Someone in the crowd called out, "So the restaurant's food is making people sick?" "Yes," Terrell said clearly. "Not from contamination. Not from delivery tampering, from a chemical reaction that happens when you combine ingredients that shouldn't be combined." Vincent looked like he might be sick himself. But this is my signature dish, my most popular item. I can't just—" "You have to stop serving it," Terrell said firmly, "or people will keep getting sick. Eventually, someone with a sensitive stomach or existing gastric condition might have a serious reaction. You could face lawsuits, health department closure, criminal negligence charges if someone is seriously harmed." The live stream chat was exploding. Thousands of comments, most supporting Terrell, some demanding the restaurant be shut down immediately, a few calling the whole thing a setup. Vincent sat down heavily on the curb, put his head in his hands. "I spent 3 months developing that recipe. It's the only thing that makes my restaurant special. Without it, I'm just another generic Italian place." Terrell felt a flicker of sympathy despite everything. "You can reformulate it. Use the activated charcoal pasta with a different sauce. Oil-based, light cream. Something that won't create this reaction. Keep the visual impact without the chemical problem. And you could help with that?" "I could. That's literally what food chemists do. Develop recipes that are both delicious and safe at the molecular level." Vincent looked up at him. "I almost had you arrested. I blamed you for something that was my fault. I humiliated you in front of all these people. Why would you help me?" Terrell was quiet for a moment. "Because I'm a scientist. My job is to make food safer, not to punish people for mistakes. And because people are still going to order from your restaurant tomorrow, they deserve food that won't make them sick. The crowd started applauding, tentatively at first, then more enthusiastically. The delivery driver with a PhD who'd just proved his scientific expertise while being accused of criminal tampering. Vincent stood up slowly, extended his hand. Dr. Washington, I owe you an apology, multiple apologies, and probably a job offer. Terrell shook his hand. I'll help you reformulate the recipe, but I'm not interested in a job. I need to keep delivering until I find something in my actual field. What if you did both? Consult for my restaurant. Help me develop safe recipes. I'll pay you consultant rates, $100 an hour. You could work around your delivery schedule. Terrell blinked. $100 an hour was more than he'd ever made. Seriously? Seriously. You just saved my business and possibly saved me from killing someone. That's worth a hell of a lot more than delivery fees. One of the customers in the crowd spoke up. I own 3 restaurants in the city. If Dr. Washington can prevent this kind of problem, I'd hire him too. Food safety consultation, recipe development, $125 an hour. Another voice. I run a food manufacturing company. We need a food chemist on staff. If you're interested, Dr. Washington, I'd like to talk about a full-time position. Terrell stood in the parking lot, delivery bag forgotten, as job offers started coming from people who 5 minutes ago had watched him be accused of criminal tampering. The live stream had 50,000 viewers now, comments pouring in. Food bloggers, journalists, other restaurant owners. His demonstration had gone viral. His phone started ringing. Unknown number. He answered. Dr. Washington? This is Sarah Chen from the FDA's Center for Food Safety. I just watched your parking lot demonstration. That was brilliant food chemistry communication. We've been trying to warn restaurants about activated charcoal interactions, but nobody listens to government warnings. Would you be interested in consulting with us on public food safety education? Terrell's head was spinning. Yes, I'd be very interested. Excellent. I'll send you information. Also, we're hiring food chemists for our research division. Your dissertation research is exactly what we need. Would you consider applying? Absolutely. He hung up, looked at Vincent, who was watching with a mixture of guilt and amazement. I'm sorry, Vincent said again, for everything, for the accusations, for not listening, for judging you based on your job instead of your knowledge. A lot of people do that, Terrell said. Assume that if you're doing delivery or service work, you must not be capable of anything else. They don't think about why someone with a PhD might be delivering food. He looked at the crowd. But here's the thing. There are probably dozens of people in this city right now, driving for delivery apps or working retail or doing gig economy jobs who are overqualified and underemployed. People with degrees, with expertise, with knowledge that's being wasted because the job market failed them. So next time you interact with a delivery driver or a cashier or anyone in a service job, remember, you have no idea what they actually know, what they're actually capable of, what they've actually achieved. All you know is what they're doing right now to pay their bills. The crowd was silent, absorbing that. Terrell picked up his delivery bag. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have 5 orders getting cold. Customers waiting, bills to pay. Wait, Vincent said. Let me comp your delivery fee and tip you. Properly. He pulled out his wallet, handed Terrell $200. That's for tonight, for the consulting, for proving me wrong, for being professional when I was anything but. Terrell took the money. It was more than he usually made in a full day of deliveries. Thank you. I'll contact you tomorrow about reformulating that recipe. He got in his car, loaded the delivery bags, checked his app for the addresses, started his engine. As he pulled out of the parking lot, he could see the crowd still gathered, still talking, the live stream still broadcasting. His phone buzzed with notifications, Twitter mentions, LinkedIn messages, email from the FDA. 3 more restaurant owners requesting consultations. His life had just changed. In a parking lot, during a confrontation that could have ended with him being arrested. All because he'd refused to stay silent when he knew people were in danger. All because he'd used his expertise even when nobody wanted to listen. The rejected PhD who delivered food had just proven his worth to thousands of people, and the career he'd thought was dead had suddenly come back to life. But first, he had 5 orders to deliver, because bills didn't stop, and until those job offers became actual paychecks, he still needed the delivery fees. Dr. Terrell Washington, food chemist, drove off to deliver someone's dinner, for now, but not for much longer. 3 months later, the transformation was complete and undeniable. Terrell stood in a television studio, makeup being applied to his face, preparing for an interview on a national morning show. The segment title on the teleprompter, "The Delivery Driver Who Became America's Food Safety Hero." His life had changed so rapidly it still felt surreal. The parking lot demonstration had been viewed over 15 million times. News outlets had picked up the story. Social media had made him a celebrity. But more importantly, the actual work had started. He'd taken the FDA consulting position, part-time at first, then full-time when they offered him $120,000 a year to lead their new food safety education initiative. His job was to translate complex food chemistry into information regular people and restaurant owners could understand and use. He'd developed an online course, Food Chemistry for Restaurant Owners, How to Avoid Dangerous Ingredient Interactions. Over 3,000 restaurants had enrolled in the first month. Several states were making it mandatory for new restaurant licenses. He'd consulted for 47 restaurants, helping them reformulate recipes to eliminate chemical hazards. Romano's Italian Kitchen had completely revamped their menu using his guidance. Vincent now advertised scientifically optimized recipes developed with PhD food chemist consultation. The reformulated truffle carbonara, now made with an oil-based sauce instead of cream, was still the restaurant's signature dish. Still looked dramatic, still tasted great, but didn't make anyone sick. Vincent had become an advocate, speaking publicly about how he'd almost destroyed his business through ignorance, and how Terrell had saved it. "I judged a man by his job instead of his knowledge," Vincent told a local news station. "Almost had him arrested for trying to help me. That shame will stay with me forever." More importantly, Vincent had hired 2 other overqualified delivery drivers to work in his kitchen after learning one had culinary school training and another was a trained nutritionist. "I'll never make assumptions about people based on their current employment again," he'd promised. The 3 restaurant owners who'd offered consulting work in the parking lot had become Terrell's regular clients. Word spread. His consulting business grew. He was now booked solid 3 months in advance. But the best part was the job offers that had come from the viral video. Real positions in his field, research labs, food companies, universities. He'd accepted a tenure-track position at a major university, assistant professor of food chemistry, starting next semester. $95,000 salary, plus research budget, plus benefits. The job he'd applied for hundreds of times and been rejected. Now they were competing to hire him. His future students would learn food chemistry from someone who'd lived in both worlds, the academic research and the real-world application, who understood that knowledge meant nothing if it couldn't be communicated to the people who needed it. The morning show interview went live. "Dr. Washington," the host began, "3 months ago, you were delivering food for $4 per order. Today, you're one of the country's most sought-after food safety experts. How did that happen?" "I got accused of criminal tampering," Terrell said with a slight smile, "and had to prove my innocence by doing food chemistry in a parking lot." The audience laughed. "But seriously," he continued, "I think the story resonates because a lot of people are living versions of it. Overqualified, underemployed, working jobs that don't match their expertise because the economy or discrimination or bad luck kept them from finding appropriate positions. You have a PhD from a prestigious university. Why couldn't you find a job?" Terrell chose his words carefully. "The academic job market is brutal, but I also think there were other factors. When you're a black scientist with an ethnic name on your resume, you face barriers that others don't. I can't prove discrimination in any specific case, but the pattern of rejections while my white colleagues got multiple offers was hard to ignore. So you ended up delivering food." I ended up doing what I had to do to pay my bills and my student loans, and I'm not ashamed of that. Delivery work is honest work. It's just not work that matched my training. The host nodded. What do you want people to take away from your story? 2 things. First, don't judge people by their current job. The person delivering your food might be a PhD. The cashier at your grocery store might be a trained engineer. The barista making your coffee might be a published author. You don't know their story, their qualifications, or their circumstances. He paused. Second, if you have expertise, use it, even when people don't want to listen, even when you're being dismissed. I could have walked away that night and let people keep getting sick, but I have knowledge that could help, so I used it. That's what expertise is for. Helping people, not hoarding credentials. After the interview, Terrell checked his phone. Messages from former graduate school classmates who'd ignored him when he couldn't find work. Saw you on TV! So proud of you. We should catch up. He deleted most of them. The people who'd helped when he was struggling, his mother, a few true friends, one professor who'd never stopped advocating. Those were the people he'd remember. There was one message that mattered, though, from Vincent Romano. Restaurant fully booked for next 3 months. Health inspection, perfect score, 0 illness complaints. Thank you for saving my business and teaching me to be better. The consulting check is in the mail. V. Terrell had been charging Vincent $100 an hour for recipe consultation. Vincent had been paying him $200 and refusing to accept the difference back. You saved my entire livelihood. You get paid accordingly. That evening, Terrell drove past Romano's Italian kitchen. There was a line out the door. A new sign in the window. Recipes developed with food chemistry expertise. Delicious and safe. He smiled, then kept driving to the university where he'd start teaching in 2 months. He wanted to see his future office, the lab where he'd conduct research, the classroom where he'd teach the next generation. His car passed other delivery drivers on the road. He wondered how many of them were like he'd been 3 months ago. Overqualified, underemployed, using gig work to survive while hoping for something better. He made a mental note to develop a program at the university. Identify delivery drivers and service workers with advanced degrees. Offer them pathways into teaching assistantships, research positions, career development. Use his new platform to help people still stuck where he'd been. A year after the parking lot demonstration, Terrell was invited to give the keynote address at his PhD program's graduation ceremony. He stood at the podium in the same auditorium where he'd defended his dissertation, looking out at 150 graduating doctoral students in their robes, students about to enter the same brutal job market that had rejected him 100 times. When I graduated from this program, Terrell began, I thought my career was guaranteed. I had a PhD from a prestigious university. Publications, strong research. I thought expertise would be enough. It wasn't. I applied to 73 positions, got 0 offers, ended up delivering food for delivery apps, making about $15 an hour when I was qualified to earn 6 figures. The graduating students shifted uncomfortably. This wasn't the inspirational speech they'd expected. I'm not telling you this to scare you, Terrell continued. I'm telling you because some of you will face the same thing. The job market is brutal. Discrimination is real. Having a PhD doesn't guarantee anything. Some of you will end up in jobs that don't match your qualifications. Delivering food, driving for ride shares, working retail, doing temp work, taking positions far below your expertise because you have student loans and rent, and you need to survive. He paused, looking out at their worried faces. And when that happens, not if, but when, I need you to remember 3 things. First, your current job doesn't define your worth or your expertise. I was the same food chemist delivering someone's dinner that I am now standing at this podium. My knowledge didn't diminish because I was driving a Honda Civic instead of working in a lab. Don't let anyone, including yourself, make you believe that your circumstances equal your capabilities. Second, use your expertise anyway, even when people don't ask for it. Even when they don't want to hear it, even when they judge you based on your delivery uniform instead of your credentials. The world needs what you know. Don't hoard your knowledge because people aren't treating you the way you deserve. Third, this is temporary. I know it doesn't feel temporary when you're 6 months into applying for jobs and getting rejected. I know it feels like failure when you're working for minimum wage with a doctorate, but it's temporary. The right opportunity will come, sometimes from the most unexpected place. He smiled. For me, it came in a parking lot when a restaurant owner accused me of criminal tampering and I had to prove my innocence using food chemistry. Your moment will be different, but it will come. Until then, survive. Work whatever job you need to work. Pay your bills. Take care of yourself. But don't give up on your expertise. Don't stop being a scientist just because the system failed to give you a scientist's job. Because here's what I learned. Expertise doesn't require an official position. Research doesn't require a university affiliation. Making a difference doesn't require the perfect job title. I did more to advance food safety education as a delivery driver than I might have done in years of traditional research, because I was forced to communicate complex chemistry to regular people in a way they could understand and use, because I had to prove my worth in the real world instead of just in academic journals. So if you end up in a job that doesn't match your degree, don't see it as failure. See it as an opportunity to practice a different skill, communicating your expertise to people outside academia. Making science accessible, proving that knowledge matters regardless of where it comes from. Terrell looked at the young PhD students, saw himself in their hopeful faces. You are all brilliant. You've earned your doctorates. You deserve careers that match your abilities. And most of you will find them. But some of you won't. Not immediately. Maybe not for a long time. And when you're delivering food or making coffee or doing work that feels beneath you, remember, a delivery driver can be a scientist. A barista can be a researcher. Your job title doesn't erase your doctorate. Use what you know. Help people anyway. Stay ready for your moment. Mine came in a parking lot. Yours might come anywhere, but it will come. The standing ovation lasted 4 minutes. After the ceremony, dozens of students approached him, thanking him, sharing their own stories of underemployment and struggle, asking for advice. One young woman, newly minted PhD in biology, pulled him aside. I already have a job lined up. Starbucks, $16 an hour. I've been rejected from every research position I applied for. I feel like such a failure. You're not a failure, Terrell told her. You're surviving, and while you're making coffee, you're still a biologist. If you see something in food safety, speak up. If you notice something scientific, mention it. Your expertise doesn't disappear because you're wearing a green apron. She wiped tears from her eyes. Thank you. I needed to hear that. He gave her his card. And when you're ready, contact me. I know people hiring in food science, pharmaceutical research, quality control. Your biology background is valuable. The right position exists. Sometimes it just takes time to find it. Walking to his car after the event, Terrell got a call from an unknown number. Dr. Washington? This is James Chen from the Department of Education. We've been following your work in food safety education. The Secretary wants to launch a nationwide program teaching food chemistry in high schools. We'd like you to lead the curriculum development. $180,000 annual salary, full benefits, based in D.C. Interested? Terrell leaned against his car. 18 months ago, he'd been sitting in this same parking lot, checking his phone for delivery orders, wondering if his PhD would ever matter. Now, the federal government was offering him nearly $200,000 to do exactly what he loved, make food chemistry accessible to everyone. Very interested, he said. Send me details. He hung up and sat in his car for a moment, processing. The rejection-filled year of delivering food felt like a lifetime ago and like yesterday simultaneously. His phone buzzed again. Text from his mother. Saw your speech online. Your father would be so proud. I'm proud. You didn't let them break you. Terrell felt tears forming. His father had died before seeing him finish college. Never knew his son would get a PhD. Never knew the struggle that would follow. Never knew the vindication that would come. But his mother had seen all of it. The brilliant son who couldn't get hired. The PhD delivering food. The parking lot confrontation that changed everything. The career rebuilt from nothing. He texted back, "Thanks, Mama. Love you." Started his car. Drove toward his apartment. A much nicer one now, 2 bedrooms, actual furniture, no cockroaches. Passed a delivery driver at a red light. Young guy, looked tired, pizza delivery bag on his passenger seat. Terrell wondered what his story was, what degree he might have, what expertise he was hiding while driving around delivering food. Terrell made another mental note. Create a registry, a database where overqualified gig workers could list their actual expertise, connect them with opportunities, help them escape the cycle he'd been trapped in, use his platform to lift others up. The final truth was simpler than any chemistry equation. Expertise doesn't disappear when you take a survival job. Knowledge doesn't vanish because the system failed you. And sometimes the person delivering your food knows more than the person who cooked it. Terrell had proven that in a parking lot, and he'd keep proving it every day for the rest of his career. Have you ever been underestimated because of your job? Have you ever worked a position that didn't match your qualifications? Have you ever had someone dismiss your expertise because they judged you by your circumstances instead of your capabilities? Share your story in the comments below. Subscribe to our channel for more stories of hidden expertise, dismissed knowledge, and the moments when the underestimated prove everyone wrong. Because somewhere right now, a brilliant person is delivering your food, a PhD is making your coffee, an expert is working retail, a genius is driving for a rideshare app. Don't assume you know someone's story based on their current job. The delivery driver might be a scientist, the barista might be an engineer, the person you're dismissing might be the expert you need. Terrell proved that, and his story is just beginning.